Good evening, Canada. Tonight, we're taking a close look at the pressure points across the country, starting with doctors filling Montreal's Bell Centre to protest Quebec's Bill 2.
New cracks showing inside Pierre Poilievre's Conservative Party. Can he survive until his leadership review early next year?
And later, I will have your 2025 Grey Cup preview as the Alouettes and the Roughriders gear up for the big game in Winnipeg. From Montreal, I'm Eddie Tekalik.
And I'm Gary MacDonald. Stay with us. 3 big stories, 1 conversation. This is episode 59 of Night Talk Canada. Now, before we dive into tonight's topics, yesterday was Remembrance Day in Canada. Here in Montreal, the snow was falling as people gathered to honor those who have given their lives and those who have or are serving to protect our freedom. In Nova Scotia, some judges ordered court staff not to wear poppies while working. The move was supported by their chief justices who say it preserves the perception of impartiality of the justice system. Now, the judges, when they told the court staff not to wear poppies, said that wearing a poppy is a political statement. Excuse me, what? My head swiveled around about 4 times when I heard that. Thank God somebody with a little bit of sense in Nova Scotia at the top, Premier Tim Houston, was really upset over this pronouncement and is talking about introducing some kind of legislation sometime between now and Remembrance Day next year to right that situation. Meantime, the Veterans Affairs Minister, when asked about it, said that he respects the impartiality of the justice system. Talk about a runaway kind of response. I don't get this. When is a poppy a political statement? Explain that one to me, Lucy, because I don't get it. You wear wedding rings, you wear Canada flags, you wear all kinds of different little pins and everything. Now, the judges say that they're not going to stop people coming into the court to observe court proceedings. It's just the people working. Excuse me, like it's not even a religious symbol. What is the problem here? The only thing that I see is if they're worried about impartiality, then maybe they should keep their mouth shut about things like this, because all that does to me is that tells me that these judges are so out of touch with reality that how can they be impartial when they're hearing some of the cases? I just am so disgusted, so worked up, so fed up with some of this crap that's taking place in this country at times. Just had it. Enough. Now, you were at the Remembrance Day ceremony yesterday, and you also provided the video and pictures that we used a few minutes ago, Eddie.
Yeah.
Give me your sense of what you saw there and how you feel about this issue.
Well, first of all, let me talk about the issue, Gary. I, too, when I heard about this, I was just completely flabbergasted. And this is from Canadians in this great country of Canada. And these are Canadian judges that are basically saying poppies that they don't belong in Canada on Remembrance Day. I mean, are they out of their absolute mind, Gary? I was just flabbergasted by this absolute and sheer stupidity. And another thought that comes to mind: it's a good thing John Cherry is no longer on CBC, because he would have a clip shit if he heard about this. I mean, absolutely wrong. This should never have been said. This should have never been thought of. And I think, to tell you quite honestly, there should be some ass kicking going on here, because what was said and what was done there in that jurisdiction is completely un-Canadian, and I find that they're ill-fitted to handle the office they're actually in, and they're supposed to be representing Canadians and Canada, and they did a terrible job with that, Gary. It really pissed me off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Let's get on to my experience yesterday in celebrating the Remembrance Day, or honoring the Remembrance Day ceremonies here in Montreal. I went to the Cenopath at Place de Canada, and you know what? As you saw in the videos, it was it was snowing. You know, thank God it didn't rain, but it was light snow coming down. I was really amazed by the amount of people that were there this year. Attending last year, I showed up at 10:30, and I pretty much got front row access. There was a few people behind me, and not even close to the crowd I saw this year. I mean, I got there at 10:30, Gary, and there was at least 8 to 9 bodies deep. And I mean, they had cordoned off the area. You just couldn't walk willy nilly around, and we were packed in there. And that video that snap that you took there, that was at about a quarter two. By 11 o'clock, that place was shoulder to shoulder. So I kind of felt it was a different vibe this year. I don't know if it was myself personally, especially when you look back at the year Canada has had with the rhetoric that's been thrown at us from the United States and everything that's going on in the world today that is not very peaceful. And I found that the conversation around me was very uh, patriotic. There was a lot of people wearing Canada pins. Almost everyone had poppy pins, the poppies on their chests. A lot more soldiers this year than last year, all over the place, and it just had this feel of camaraderie. We had the honor guards and the flag bearers at complete attention. I mean, it was cold at some point with the wind gust. They didn't flinch a muscle, and they were all veterans. The legendary Black Watch Regiment was in complete presence. There had to be at least 40 soldiers there. And there was just something different in the air, at least for me. Um, and the ceremony, of course, started with the playing of "O Canada," and typically you let the band play. No, there were quite a few people singing along to "O Canada" as the
Wow.
band started playing it. Yes, as the band started playing, and that really took me back. So I feel that the sense of nationalism and the sense of unity was far more present this time around than it was last year. And you know what? You hear you see a lot of stuff on social media and whatnot that when the chips are down, Canadians will band together no matter from what religion, what creed, where you're born, where your parents are from. Doesn't matter. People in Canada are very patriotic, and I really got that sense yesterday while attending the Remembrance Day ceremony. So people sang along. The last post was played. Then you had the 2 minutes of silence followed by the réveil, and then you had the 21 guns salute. It just was a different. It felt like a different level of heart and heartfelt patriotism throughout. One thing I did notice though, we had a lot of dignitaries laying down the wreaths and whatnot. Um, but one thing I did notice, I wasn't able to identify true World War II veterans there. Last year, I saw a few there in wheelchairs, and they actually laid wreaths. I didn't see any this year, and I think what we did see was a couple of silver wives, if you might put it, that went to lay a couple of wreaths to start the ceremony, and they had to be helped to the cenotaph and back. But I did not see any soldiers there. And it's they're getting on in age, and I'm sure they pay their tributes in whatever homes or hospitals, military hospitals that they're in, and play tribute to their fallen patriots. So it was really a nice experience for me to feel that again, much more so this time, and I just felt the patriotism from one end of the park to the other of all the attendees there, and the speeches that were given uh, by the moderator were really heartfelt. We were able to hear it on the speaker system quite well. A lot of attention and saluting throughout the activity. As a matter of fact, that's one thing I noticed over last year. Every opportunity that the military had to salute, they kind of knew exactly when to snap to attention and salute. So, just to summarize, it was very patriotic, and I found people were more into the ceremony this year than last year, and there were a lot more people as well.
And when you consider the snow that was falling, wow, it was really something to see the videos. You know what you sent and a couple of the pictures and everything. It was good to see the people out, that the snow didn't stop them, and they were there to pay their respects.
Yeah.
And wow, that's really, 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 really good to hear. Now, we do have a couple of quick comments, and then we'll move on to our regular programming. First one is Monel says, "Oh my God, since when are poppies political? That is disgusting." Jen says, "Explain to me how showing respect is political." And then Joe comes in with, "We need more Don Cherries. Simple common sense, and he speaks the truth."
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of people didn't like him, but you knew what you were getting. He was a straight shooter, straight from the
Yeah.
hip. So, all right. So that's Remembrance Day 2025. Hopefully, Nova Scotia will not be home again to some sort of poppy kerfluffle or Remembrance Day kerfluffle as it has been over the last 2 years. And, stop, people. Just stop. People are wearing the poppies as a sign of support and as a sign of respect. So, not a political statement. So stop, just stop.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll move along. I don't want to get too wound up. Okay. So last Sunday, thousands of doctors and medical students and their supporters, well, they rallied in the Bell Centre here in Montreal in protest of Bill 2. That's provincial legislation that they say jeopardizes patient care access and forces a two-tier system of stable versus transient doctors. There's a phrase, transient doctors. What is the fallout and what does it mean for ordinary Quebecers and, for that matter, potentially, and I suggest potentially, other jurisdictions in the country? So let's have a little discussion about that. And first of all, let's have a quick look at a couple of things here. This is the Bell Centre on Sunday, this past Sunday. 13,000 people. Now, apparently the medical associations around the province and the Association of Medical Students and their supporters, they gave out about 12,400, 12,500 tickets. And then, but by the time you got everybody in there and their supporters, and they were bussed in from all over the province, you ended up with about 13,000 or so.
That is serious. That is absolutely
that is
serious.
really, really serious. And let's have a look at a couple of other things here while we're at it, Eddie. Couple of points to bring up. The whole thing boils down to, there are a number of things, but three key factors include performance-based pay and capitation. In other words, there's going to be a cap on access for vulnerable patients versus healthy at clinics. So what I'm understanding, and if you read it, and I'll get into it in a minute when I can bring it up in front of me and make sure I don't make any mistakes. But essentially what they're saying is, and this was denied initially by the health minister and the premier when they first started talking about bringing this legislation into play. And that is, healthy people would be discouraged from going to their family doctors to open up more spaces for those who are not healthy and need ongoing primary care. Well, I get it maybe to a degree, but I don't. I really don't. It's a lazy way of trying to get around an issue. And, does this government, does it not realize when you're talking doctors and you're talking the healthcare system, you're talking about people's lives, life or death, period. So you don't find these mealy-mouthed, convoluted ways of getting around to try and make it look like you're actually accomplishing something, because you're not. You're driving healthy people away. And, if I have a sore throat or whatever, or something comes up that I had a family doctor and I'm being discouraged from going to my family doctor who has seen me for the last couple of years, and go to a clinic, and then you get in and you know it's a doctor on a assembly line. You don't know who you're going to get each
Right.
time you go in. How can they get to know you? And as I've said in the past, you know, the one thing, 15 minutes and that's it. You have another problem, come back and see me, make another appointment. Sometimes it turns out that those conditions are related. And if you had been able to catch it earlier, it might not have required as much intervention on the part of the healthcare system or you know, prescriptions. It makes no sense at all to be driving people away from them and understands them, and they know and they have confidence in the doctor to start up well, you never get a chance to really start up a new relationship with some of the doctors at the clinics. And I'm not dissing the doctors in the clinics. They're doing what they have to do. And,
Yeah.
and forcing them to the new doctors coming into, you must serve 5 years in the public healthcare system. Well, who in the hell wants to spend 5 years in the public healthcare system in a province like Quebec where it's just in a total state of disarray? If that's not enough to discourage you before you even graduate, then
Yeah.
I don't know what is.
Not only that, Gary, we got the 5 years mandatory, and you're going to work where we tell you to work. It might not be Montreal where you grew up and got educated. It might be up in the Sheboogam or someplace further north for 5 years. Um, Real big detractor to actually becoming a doctor in this province.
And then you have to ask permission. Go before the Lords and bow down and say, please, now I'm at the end of the 5 years. I want to go into private practice. May I go into private practice?
Mhm.
What? Wait a minute. Are we not living in Canada? Are we
Yeah.
not a free country? Freedom to move and work wherever? Well, what is Quebec doing?
Someone is not looking at the source of the problem, Gary. You and I have talked about this over numerous coffees and drinks, and Quebec unfortunately has a consistent bad habit of not looking directly at the root cause of the problem and then invest the necessary money to correct it, and then put plans in place that will allow the government to work very fairly with the unions representing the labor workforces in hospitals. And at the same, we're talking the nurses, the technicians, and whatnot. But most importantly, you got to make sure that your doctors are happy. If your doctors are not happy, I'm sorry, lab technicians, nurses, and whatever else just end up being a moot point, even though they're very, very, very important in medicine. It's just, if you don't have any doctors, what do you do? And with 200 to 250 of them flying over to our neighbors next door, and you have Premier Ford saying, "Welcome, this is what I'm going to do for you." I think that our leaders here in Quebec are just not tackling the right issue here. What are they after? What is the desired outcome of what they're proposing with Bill 2? You and I, as patients and citizens of Quebec, obviously we're pissed off. And based on some of the comments we're seeing coming in, others are pissed off besides you and I. And more so, they're going to piss more people off. And the doctors are incensed. I mean, Gary, look at that turnout
Yes.
at the Bell Center.
Yep.
Unbelievable. And if the government can't look at that and say, "Oh boy, we really stepped on some toes here. Maybe we should sit down and speak to them and see what the issues are, and correct them." And I read somewhere as well, Gary, in some of the documentation, that Quebec is the only province without an independent arbitration mechanisms, while other provinces find ways to reach agreements without resorting to special legislation. So what the hell does that say with the capabilities of the Quebec government versus similar challenges that other governments have throughout Canada, but they manage to find a solution to their issues out there?
And
Uh,
remember Legault and company used closure back earlier this year when they were pushing Bill 2 through, and it passed after limited debate very early on a Saturday morning.
right,
Boom, done.
just like
Now,
that.
yeah, now, how crucial was it that you had to invoke closure? Like Legault is really, and his group, they're really becoming very lazy as far as trying to function in a democracy, govern in a democracy. They're
Hmm.
using all of the lazy ways out. And I go back to this particular situation where they use closure and, the notwithstanding clause. To me, that is the most,
Lamest. Yeah.
yeah, asinine, laziest way to govern in a province or a country that there is. Use the notwithstanding clause. Stand up. Show some strength. And if your solution, if you feel your solution is that good, then for God's sake, stand up and defend it. Not come out with your talking points after it's a
Yeah.
fait accompli and that's it. And then go in hiding. Anyway, let's go to a couple of comments here because I need some time to cool down. Okay. Ian says, yes, the doctors are going to move out of Quebec. It's like our government is running a dictatorship with our health system.
Well put, Ian. Yeah.
Yep, very much so. Deborah says, for 4 years, I have no doctor. I have a group at a clinic. I have to call Click Santé to get an appointment, rarely the same doctor. I'm allowed 15 minutes and one health issue at a time. It's discouraging. Definitely. Jen says, healthy people can stay healthy with preventative care, which is now being advised against.
Good point.
Make it make sense.
Good
There.
point.
Yeah.
Gary,
Maybe
I
that-
walked in to see my family doctor, and I usually go see him for my annual just to make sure everything is working the way it's supposed to. And I couldn't believe my ears when he said, well, you know what? We're getting orders from the government that it's no longer necessary to have an annual anymore. What? So better that my creaky bones start getting a little creakier and only go see people when I'm sick? Oh, yeah. Jen, you just hit a sore spot. Thank you for that. Oh, boy.
Okay. And one more from Deborah. She says, I pay my taxes. I pay for additional medical coverage through Sun Life. I am now paying a private clinic to actually get the help I need. Tell me why I'm paying taxes again. Deborah, I got thinking about that the other day when we were having the conversation. And I'm almost at a point to make my own point and to at least get it out of my system. When I'm doing my income tax this year, the provincial part where it says, you figure out the percentage that you owe for healthcare.
Right.
I'm thinking about just working around. So I just put 0 all the way through. Boom. I wonder if I could claim the provincial tax on my federal tax. I'll have to look at that too. Anyway, it's just like it's above and beyond, and here's the thing. The 200 and some odd doctors who contacted the College of Physicians and Surgeons in Ontario, they weren't just looking for feedback as to what's available, where, and what have you. They were applying for certification, and about 30 of them have already been certified to work in Ontario.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that one. Oh, boy.
Yeah. So, and in New Brunswick, the last I heard in talking with someone in New Brunswick very, very recently, they'd had about 71 doctors from Quebec since this all broke, inquiring about what's available. And I'm not aware of any certifications being handed out yet. There may have been, and there may have been since I talked to this individual, but about 70 some odd looking to see what's available in New Brunswick. And again, New Brunswick is short of doctors. They implemented a plan last year through the College of Physicians and Surgeons where a lot of foreign doctors, like you're a dental surgeon, you're an Uber driver last week you were talking about, they go through, they have a training program set up now to expedite these individuals through to bring them up to Canadian standards, and they pass the exams and everything, and getting them out into the healthcare system as doctors. And that's also being tried in some other provinces across the country as well. So we're finally coming to our senses that, okay, A lot of the people are are there. They can do the job. They just need the certification at the level that we expect in Canada.
Yeah.
And now they're starting to set up the ability for that. Okay, we have another comment that just came in. And Big Boss. As a man, I feel like a woman. They give me hormones to adjust if I feel like I want to be stronger. Hold on, buddy. Don't do steroids. Why not? Wow, never thought of that. That's a whole Big Boss. Like that's a whole new twist to the conversation.
Yeah. Well,
I
Gary,
just
you know what? You and I always speak about accountability within our Canadian government in Parliament, looking at the leaders and holding them accountable, and on a provincial level. Look, you know what? I'll hand out accolades to whatever move the government does to better the country or province in this particular case. You know what? I was very, very gratuitous with my thank yous to Premier Legault during COVID. I mean, they had a very they had a very good handle on the COVID situation here in Quebec and getting us through it. And I was very thankful for his leadership capabilities, along with Minister Dubé, the health minister, how they brought us through COVID. Gary, it's been an absolute freaking disaster ever since then. Um, they were always in front of the televisions. They were always in front of the microphones in
mm-hmm.
terms of updating the population on what's happening with COVID, what are the dire circumstances, what do we need the population to do to help us overcome this hurdle, and here's how you can prevent COVID, and here's how you can get where you can get your vaccination program going. And I mean, they were really great at it. Okay, so the medical system, I think, prevailed there, and we managed to get through COVID. I'm not going to say unscathed, but we managed to get through it with their leadership. So I mentioned cameras and microphones and radio stations, whatnot. You had ministers all over the place. You had you had the premier on media all the time. Where the hell are these guys today? Not just today, but for the last couple of years. Where are they in terms of their presence in front of a television screen, in front of a camera, in front of a microphone to talk about the dire state of our health here in this province? You know where? Nowhere.
Yeah,
I looked
exactly.
very hard to find anything, even in the French media. Very difficult to corner these individuals where a reporter can ask them the very, very important questions. Mr. Christian Dubé, health minister, what are you going to do to keep our doctors in this province? Don't tell me what you're going to do to beat them on the head with a stick. What are you going to do to keep our doctors here? What are you going to do to keep the brain drain, from continuing to happen? Not next year, now. What are you going to do to encourage young people to take on the medical profession and first of all, learn it here in Quebec and then stay in Quebec? You can't you can't do it by threatening penalties. I mean, what did you say last time? $100,000 for mishaps. I mean, that's ridiculous. Or threatening them, and they have to sign their contract in blood, like making a deal with the
Yeah.
devil, and then asking the devil permission to leave. That's not going to solve anything. Where are these guys in front of? I'd love to see a town hall, an unannounced town hall. Do it at the Bell Center. I guarantee you the Bell Center will fill up the capacity of
Oh,
23,000
yeah,
seats if they decide to have a
absolutely.
town hall and allow us to ask those questions. Reporters don't have that opportunity because they are camera shy all of a sudden.
Yeah.
When it comes to election time, maybe they're going to stick their ugly heads out. But guys, come on. And all these committees and subcommittees being formed to be able to enhance the services offered by the Quebec government, the health services offered by the Quebec government to its citizens. And we still don't see anything. It's just another layer, of paperwork and government that doesn't really accomplish anything. And I'm getting really, just as you, Gary, I'm getting really upset at this. I don't want to lose my family doctor because I'm healthy. I shouldn't be able to see him, and I should allow somebody else who's sicker than I to get precedence over that, you know what? I wouldn't mind a person that's sicker than I am to have priority access to my doctor. Don't take away my access. The problem is manpower here, and they're doing nothing to address it.
Now,
It's
Dubé came
ridiculous.
out one day recently and said that's not going to happen. If you have a family doctor, you're going to stay with your family doctor. Really?
Yeah,
Really?
that's not
Do you
what Bill
believe
Two.
that?
That's not what Bill Two says.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Do you believe that? I don't for 5 seconds believe that in
yeah,
any way, shape, or form. And there are 1.5 million people in this province without a family doctor or primary caregiver, however you want to phrase it. And that's according to government statements. 1.5 million people, Eddie. That's a fair chunk of the population of this province.
yeah.
And yes, you do have issues outside of the major metropolitan centers because it's a large province and you've got a lot of smaller communities spread around through the northern part of Quebec. Yes, I understand that. And it's going to be more difficult to attract doctors there. I don't know, come up with some kind of a clinic
In,
that's kind of central
incentives,
between 3 or 4 of these communities, and then have doctors rotating in and out, like maybe 4 doctors assigned to the clinic, and each one does a month on duty kind of thing, and they rotate in and out.
and
But you
there's
still get that
incentives for it.
continuity of care and understanding because you're dealing with the same 4 people over the
Right,
course of the year. I mean, there are all sorts of things to come up with other than this lazy, asinine way that they're
heavy-handed.
going about it.
Yeah,
And then, threatening people with fines at $20,000 to $100,000 a day.
yeah.
A day. Who in their right mind, what medical student in the right mind who's either taking medicine here in Quebec right now or elsewhere in the country and thought, was thinking about maybe coming to Quebec to
I don't.
practice?
I don't think so, Shirley.
Yeah, not at
No.
all.
Well,
Not
and
at all.
I was speaking about my family doctor. Quite a few years back, my wife was feeling very sick, right? And we thought, you know what, rather than go bother our family doctor and he's very busy, we're just going to go down the street here and visit our local clinic. Well, I mean, the once my wife finally saw the doctor, he basically says, "Oh, you got a little bit of a cold. Go home, take care of yourself. It'll pass over." Meanwhile, my wife is getting worse and worse and worse. Rush her to see the family doctor. He looked at her and said, "You've got pneumonia." How on earth did the doctor there at the clinic not see that you had pneumonia, walking pneumonia? You know what? I'm sure the doctor at the clinic was perfectly qualified, but you know what? You look around some of these clinics where you have 1 or 2 doctors in there and 100 people waiting to get
Yep.
in. That's what happens when you only give 5 to 10 minutes 5 to 10 minutes to a person, and then get them out so they can actually, tick it off, put that on their ticker sheet that I've met my quota, and get the next patient in. That is the result. My wife could have gotten seriously ill and died from that, all because we try to do the right thing and not bother our family doctor and go somewhere local. Well, you know what, Gary? From that point onwards, I see no one but my family doctor. I'm sorry.
Yep. All
Um, you
bets are
know,
off.
that's a perfect example of how things can go wrong very, very quickly with this new policy that they're putting into place. It's ridiculous.
Well, it is. And you're right. You can't make a reasonable diagnosis in 10 or 15 minutes seeing a person for the first time. And I had a discussion with my brother just the other day, and we were talking about this very issue. And
Mhm.
he is really, as a retired doctor and a family doctor in private practice, and he was in the military as well. But he he's passionate about this. It just makes his head swivel when he hears about these kinds of restrictions going on. What are they thinking about? And I was reading yesterday where one of the recent settlements that Ontario made with its doctors is the doctors get paid for administrative work as well. time spent on administrative work. But that why that was ever carved out, I don't know. Because to me, if you're running a practice, the administrative work you're doing, especially on filing to the government side of the operation, takes a heck of a lot of time. And you know what governments are like when they get into the paperwork, if you will, even though it's all on computer now, I'm sure. But yeah, it's they should be getting paid for things like that. So, all right, we've got a couple of more comments coming in, and here we go. Dizzy donuts. I've had explosive diarrhea for weeks, and the only thing that helps is when I drink rum and olive oil. Dizzy, dizzy, dizzy. Well, brings a little bit of to the conversation. Rum and olive oil. Wow. Big Boss comes back with, I know it's a hard question, but what is the actual time needed to do your job effectively? Labor unions would define that time requirement if it isn't already. And you're right, Big Boss. That is a difficult question because each individual is just that, an individual, and it doesn't matter what the, it could be a textbook case, but in order to get to that textbook diagnosis, the individual, it's going to be a roundabout way of getting there, and it takes time. And sometimes not everything presents up front. They do have to run a series of tests and start putting the pieces together from the results of the tests. So it's when you're dealing with medicine, it's hard to put a hard number on this and a hard number on that and a hard criteria, because we're all different, and we all, even when we get colds, we could all have the same virus, but we all suffer differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a result of that. So there is that aspect of it. I don't know how you could put like a time frame on it. I really don't. However, I'd rather have the doctor, and I don't mind sitting in an office in my appointments going overtime, because the doctor's taking time with each patient to assess them in a reasonable fashion and decide whether he needs to refer them to a specialist, send them for testing, whatever the situation is. That doesn't bother me in the least. As long as we're all treated fairly and in the same manner. But this 15 minutes or 10 minutes in one item.
Yeah.
The sad part about it is, Eddie, is we still have almost a year left of the CAC government.
Mm-hmm.
And with what they're doing with the healthcare system, it wasn't great to begin with. We have some of the worst numbers in the country. Can you imagine they still have almost a year to just totally decimate the healthcare system in this province? And that's what's going to happen, because we're going to see an exodus of doctors, and we're not going to see any new doctors wanting to come in.
Yeah. And you know what? Not only that, how about, Quebec take a look at their immigration policies in terms of some of the medical professionals that have immigrated to Canada with medical degrees from well-known universities in Europe and working in well-known hospitals in Europe, come over here to Quebec, and they're not allowed to work. Whether it's a surgeon, whether it's a family doctor, whether it's a doctor that specializes in a particular area, dental surgeons, dentists, they all have to jump through hoops, and hoops that are put so far away from them that they end up driving taxis and end up working Ubers. I mean, the reason I bring this up, this just happened to my wife and I a couple of weeks ago. A fellow from the Ukraine, practiced in France and Belgium, speaks perfect French. Quebec government won't allow him to practice here. I mean, I know you have the medical associations, whether it's healthcare or a medical association for dentistry or a Quebec association. I mean, they work in close junction to the health ministry. You know what? Here are people that want to work here in this province of Quebec, yet we make it difficult for them to practice here, and they speak French. That just boggles my mind. I mean, there's people that want to work here. They can fill up a big hole that we're suffering right now in terms of our doctor is leaving the province. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me, Gary. It's just absolute incompetence at this particular stage,
Well, the program I was talking about in New Brunswick last year, they had 10 doctors, went through the certification process, and when they completed the certification process and passed and came out certified, and you have 10 new doctors available for practice in New Brunswick, and they've all gone out. And from what I understand, the second group now is in the process of going through the training and the certification for New Brunswick standards, and they'll probably, last year the first 10 was in the spring, so they're probably going to be ready with another 10 going out into the world of practice by next spring at some point, or early summer, plus whatever number of doctors they certify that are applying from our province.
Right.
So
plus 35 is better than minus 35, right?
Yeah. So and when you look around, there are other provinces, as I said earlier, that are doing the same sort of thing, like for people coming in from other countries. They have programs set up where you can become certified to practice, and they're putting them out into the wild to set up practice and boost the healthcare system.
Look at Premier Ford. Here's my toll-free number. Please call me.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that.
It is, and that's the scary part of it. And where do we go? Okay, I have a couple more comments.
There's Joe.
Here, yeah. First one is, Deborah says, our medical decline started with language and snowballed from there. Well, a lot of things in this province start at that point and snowball from there for sure. It's a whole other issue, and I'll try and just remain calm about that too. Joe says, maybe cheaper and quicker to get treatment overseas, medical tourism. There are a couple of places that are really starting to push the medical tourism side of things, and there have been successes, but there have been some horror stories as well.
Drawbacks.
Yeah. So I guess what you have to do is really do your homework and make sure you know before jumping into it, sort of thing, and go from there. Eddie, this is an issue that we're probably going to, if not every week, have something creep into the discussion related to this.
I think so.
At least every other week or so, because this is not going to get any better. And if we have, 30 or 40 of the people who have already applied to Ontario certified to go practice there, you can rest assured that they've already called the movers. They've got the homes on the market, they're packing, and they're leaving.
Yeah.
And this is going to be like the snowball going down the hill. It's going to become really messy really quickly.
Well, look, like with a lot of governments around the world, namely the one down south to us, damage done is one thing. The time that is going to take to repair the damage is extensive. So, you know, things are just snowballing downhill here in the province of Quebec when it comes to proper healthcare for an aging population. You're right; they're going to continue to make bad decisions here in the government decisions here in the province of Quebec over the next year, or at least the next 6 months, and it's just going to make it that much more difficult to get out of this. Whoever the next administration is going to be, whoever's going to be running this province, is going to have one hell of a mess to deal
Yep.
with.
Yep. For
And
sure.
that's just the sad part about it. 1 year's worth of incompetence might equal 5 years of damage. We just don't know. And it all starts with encouraging the younger generation and convincing them that Quebec is the place to become a doctor, a medical professional, and that Quebec will remain to be the place where you are now mandated to work for the next 5 years, no longer a choice.
Yep.
So I'm not sure that the classes are going to be filled up to the extent that the government expects them to be filled up.
Yeah.
It's just going to get worse,
We have two comments, and I'm going to take them in reverse order because I think the last one, or the
Okay.
one I'm going to put last, the first one leads into it in a way, and then the last, the one I'm putting up, you'll see. It'll flow. Trust me. Deborah says medical tourism would not be an option for most Canadians. True enough. True enough. And Jen said, I had to visit a doctor while in Europe last year, waited no more than 30 minutes in emergency. What? What? And left with my prescriptions in hand. My insurance covered the cost, which was no more than $200 Canadian, less expensive than going private here. That's the way I
Wow.
thought we should end it. Food for thought.
Food for thought.
Yep. From Deborah with the medical tourism angle to Jen and her experience out of country.
Wow.
Yeah, amazing. That
I think the last word here for us, Gary, is Mr. Legault, wake up and smell the coffee.
smell something for God's sakes, please.
Yeah.
At the very least, wake up.
Wake up.
Yeah, because you know what, Francois, your legacy is if you don't do something and straighten this mess out, your legacy is going to be the screw up that you and your government, all of the rest of them up to this point, are minor. But when all of a sudden you have more than 1.5 million Quebecers without access to doctors, which is going to happen, guaranteed, the way you've got this set up. And this goes back to, Eddie, to my other pet peeve, and that is, where is the federal government holding the provinces to accountability for healthcare and a national standard of healthcare? Where is that? Anyway, but Legault, Francois, listen to me. You're out anyway come next year. You're gone. And the more you do stuff like this, the more decimated your party's going to be. You're going to be forgotten about. You'll be remembered for the mess you made of the healthcare system. And that's it. Nothing else.
Yeah.
It'll make all of the rest of the screw ups look small. But is that what you want? And your party will be nothing. You might be lucky to get a seat.
At this rate, yeah.
Yeah. And you'll have no official standing. So give your head a shake, Francois. Just give your head a shake. You're out anyway. Do the right thing on your way out. And I'll let it go with that.
Well said.
Coming up, can Poilievre hold on until January? Well, if you've been thinking about moving your web hosting from a US provider, or you want to launch a new website, now is the time. Why? Well, Web Hosting Canada, WHC, is a Montreal-based company with its servers here in Canada offering a full range of web-based products. And until December 2nd, I just found out, they're offering Black Friday deals on hosting, domains, premium SSLs, and business email for new customers. You can get more details in the affiliate link in the description below. And by the way, this is not a paid sponsorship. I've been a satisfied customer for almost 5 years.
Well, Gary, moving on. In Ottawa, the Conservative Party of Canada is riding a wave of internal turbulence, a high-profile defection, a resignation, and growing whispers of deeper unrest. With a leadership review looming for Pierre Poilievre, we ask, can he survive until the end of January? And what happens if he doesn't?
Yeah, there you go. And let's bring up a couple of points here. There we go. Oh, blocked you out, Eddie.
Yeah.
So, caucus chaos. Well, Eddie, I'll let you go down through the points and we can pick up on the discussion. Yep.
Sure. Well, as you remember last week, Gary, we spent quite a bit of time speaking about the defection of d'Entremont. I mean, he is one of those that had a writing that was just on the cusp of perhaps going liberal, but it actually went conservative by a couple of thousand votes in his writing. And he essentially pretty much got fed up with the direction and the policies that were being tabled by Poilievre and the conservative government, and he basically had enough and essentially walked across the floor. And from what I've been reading and seeing, it wasn't a question of him being recruited or being coerced to move across the floor. This was absolute personal conviction in moving across the floor and working with policies that he believes his constituents would benefit from, and B, by the same token, what's best for Canada. And I think that's where the defection came to being justified to Mr. d'Entremont. So that's one seat that went from the Blues over to the Reds. And what are we talking about now, Gary? There's about a 2-seat difference between a majority government for the Liberals and not having a majority government, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, two seats shy.
Yeah, 2 seats shy. And then this week we have the resignation of Généreux, which was, I'm not sure whether it was expected or not. But just the same, it's not a walk across the floor. The seat remains a conservative seat, and I believe at this particular juncture, doesn't the government or the Speaker of the House have to designate a date for a by-election because of his resignation, Gary? Which is what, June, July?
Yeah, it's sometime in the spring. I don't know if he's actually put a hard date to it yet.
Okay.
But anyway, there would have to be a by-election, but not until the resignation is official.
Is official, correct. So if he resigns, let's say in May, I think within 30 days or 45 days, there has to be a call for a by-election. So we're probably looking at a by-election end of July, August, just the same. And I don't know specifically what the numbers are for his electorate and how much of a win that he had, but I'm sure with a lot of the things that are going on in this country right now, especially with Carney's leadership and what he's doing to bring the economy to a point where we can be not relying on the U.S. economy, driving our economy here and becoming self-sustained. That is a plus for the Liberal government. And then with all the chaos that seems to be coming from the Conservatives, and it's not a monthly thing. We're getting weekly things that are about grumblings towards the party's leadership in Pierre Poilievre. So I think this by-election is probably going to be a closer one than expected. So there's d'Entremont leaving, crossing the floor. You have Généreux resigning. And all of this before the Conservatives go into the leadership review, going through the leadership issues come January of 2026, Gary. And you know what? There's still 6 weeks this year that people can basically cross the floor or resign. Defection is one thing. just absolute clear resignation with the whole thing is I think something that's a little bit more serious and critical to a party of people just getting fed up and resigning. That does not speak well or bode well for any political party when you have that kind of a headcount turnover. So yeah, I think Mr. Poilievre has got his work cut out for him in convincing the remaining members of parliament within the Conservative Party to keep the ship moving forward while he's struggling to get them all rowing in the same direction with the policies that the Conservative government want to push forward, and then manage the Liberal Party. I mean, that's what the opposition party is supposed to do: is to help guide and critique the ruling party in terms of what they should or should not be doing for Canadians. And I would prefer to have a strong Conservative party or a strong opposition in Parliament as opposed to one that seems to be laboring just to get to the next week without any sort of controversy, Gary.
Well, there are a couple of things that come to mind for me. And I've spent the last week since all of the uproar with everyone going and crossing the floor and dancing around the hallways. But here's the thing: the conservative independent media, and there a number of YouTubers fall into that category, and they're going on about how the Liberals had rigged this in such a way that it would distract from the budget. It's a total distraction from the budget that was dropped last week.
Mm-hmm.
And there are two ways of looking at it. Usually when you drop a budget and you've got a good narrative coming out of that budget, and not, most budgets, federal budgets, don't have a great narrative coming out of them. But anyway, right the day of the budget being delivered, you have the floor crossing, and that just took the air out of the budget discussion for the next week.
Right.
So, and then you have the Conservatives, and now the initial reactions, and Don Tremont was on Rosie Barton Live on Sunday with his first TV interview, and he was saying he felt like he was in a frat house with everything that was going on and the way his decision to cross the floor was handled. And what I saw reaction-wise, yeah, you're going to be upset with a colleague crossing the floor and going to the other side, especially in a minority parliament. But there's a diplomatic way of handling it, so you don't come off looking like some kind of high school goof. And that's what some of the Conservatives looked like. They used the term rat, and what was the other one? Oh, snake.
Mm-hmm.
Or he's a rat, he's a snake, blah, 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 blah. That's the sort of thing you hear in a schoolyard discussion back and forth, not in the hallowed halls of the House of Commons or outside the House of Commons. You're grown, you're adults. You're supposed to be adults, and you're supposed to be a government in waiting. Start acting like it, for God's sakes. You might, the actual polling right now between the libs and the cons is very, very close. Like, really, it's the margin of error separating them. But when you get down to the leadership, Carney's got a huge lead over Poilievre. That ought to tell you something right there. And that should be telling the party something. As we have said I've said on numerous occasions since the April election, the thing Poilievre should have done was resign the night the results came in.
Yeah. You're right.
Gone. Save the party what it's going through now. If you really cared about the party instead of your own personal agenda, you would have resigned, because you blew a lead that gave you government in waiting. You couldn't pivot your campaign to take on a new candidate, a new leader, and a newbie to the political scene leading the Liberal Party, and you lost your own seat. Not only did you lose the election, you lost your own seat. What more do you need to say, yeah, for the good of the party, I should step aside?
Yeah.
That would have been the mature, proper thing to do, but he didn't. And he does not poll well with his attitude. I watched him today at a news conference in Calgary.
Mm-hmm.
And, he was really trying to pin it on the media that they're on the side of the Liberals are paying them, blah, blah, blah. And he really was quite arrogant today. I probably would have packed up my gear and just said, I'm out of here, see you.
Yeah.
When you can discuss something and answer questions in a reasonable manner, in a mature adult manner, then I'll be back. But until then, good luck. I just found it disgusting. And I know some of the hardcore right wingers are going to say, oh, well, you're a Liberal supporter. I'm not going to tell anyone what side I'm on. I will say this. I am not a card-carrying member of any party. And I have voted flip-flop on various occasions,
Mm-hmm.
because I looked at the local member, people running for to be my MP or my MLA, depending on whether it was provincial or federal. And I looked at the parties they were representing. And sometimes the party part of it didn't quite hit all of the boxes for me. But the individual, I had a lot of faith and trust in the individual. So the individual got the vote. There were a couple of times where, yes, the individual was okay. There was another individual that I felt a little bit better with, but the party that individual was hooked up with was not rolling into where my head was, where I felt I could be best served. And then there was a couple of times where I held my nose and voted, and for obvious reasons. Anyway, so I'll take on and call out the Liberals as fast as I'll call out the Conservatives or the New Democrats, the Bloc, you name it. The CAQ here, you name it. I'll call them out. I just call it as I see it. And I'll tell you right now, the Conservative Party, and with Poilievre still there, and you're hearing more and more that there are other Conservatives who are not happy, and they weren't happy when they lost the election. They weren't happy with Poilievre and the way he handled it, and they weren't happy with the campaign manager, Jenny Byrne, at the time.
Yet,
And
there he
apparently
is.
they wanted her gone. The caucus wanted her gone. And apparently she still has her finger in the pie from a couple of things that I've heard. I don't know how solid that information is, but it seemed to be coming from relatively good sources when it was brought up. So I don't know. But watching his performance today, watching a couple of times recently in the House of Commons, and you and I gave him full marks the first 10 minutes of his first question period back after he won the by-election.
Mm-hmm.
Because it looked like he was on the verge of changing.
Yeah.
Well, that lasted about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then it started going downhill from there. He's just not a prime minister in waiting. I don't care if he's a conservative or if he was a liberal. He's not a prime minister in waiting. And his party is not a government in waiting. And some of the antics over the last few days, the Liberals are gloating about it. Again, grow up. Okay, you got an extra seat out of it. Great. You've got another guy who tendered a resignation that doesn't take effect until next year. And I know they're hoping to be able to topple the government before then and have a general election. Mm-hmm. But so far on the 2 confidence votes on the budget last week, he did not vote. He sat in his seat. So will he vote next week? Because the 3rd and final confidence motion on the budget is coming up early next week. Will he sit on his seat, or will he not show up even? Yeah. Who knows? But it's what's happening there. I sense there may be more stuff all of a sudden flowing out from the caucus, and it's not going to be pretty. And if that happens, Poilievre has to go before the leadership review in January. Has to. There's no other way around it. And of course, I'll be lumped in with the liberal media. They all want Poilievre to go. They're going to take him down. So we've got a couple of comments on this as well. I'll give you a chance to catch up here. Okay. Big Boss says, I'm hesitant to import versus homegrown. I'm an airline pilot, and you can't just import pilots. They claim shortage. Pay doesn't reflect that. US equals 2 times the pay. Green card needed. Result equals brain drain. I understand where you're coming from there, Big Boss, on especially on the pilot side of things. But again, we're at a critical point, as is aviation now, really. Yeah. But we're at a critical point where we need to do something to address the shortage, because our medical schools aren't turning out enough graduates fast enough. It's that simple. And really, we're also at a point in this country, and especially here in Quebec, if I'm a student and I'm getting ready to make my choice as to what I'm going to do, what I'm going to pursue, then medicine ain't going to be at the top of the list by any stretch of the imagination. So somewhere along the way, we're going to have to make up the shortage. And as long as the programs are being certified, you've got a properly certified program so that when they come out, they've built upon whatever training they've had elsewhere, and they meet the certification levels for the province and for the national level, then it's a road that we have to go down at least at this point in time. Okay, and we have one more here. Joe says, my disdain for PP has waned somewhat. I relish the thought that with PP as leader, the Conservatives will never hold office. And he says, PP equals arrogant buffoon. Okay, well, tell us how you really feel, Joe. That's an interesting concept, but I don't know how many question periods I can watch with him. How many more? And we're back in now. Today, he said, the Liberals have accused me of three-word lines, about things. He said, but they're down to 2-word lines. Like, what are they picking on me for? That was one of the lighter moments of what I watched at the news conference today. the Conservatives have an issue. And the Conservatives are known for chewing up and spitting out their leaders on a regular basis. This Poilievre is what, the third leader since 2019? I think it is.
I think so.
Yeah, the third in 6 years. Like that's really, when you get right down to it, one every 2 years. You've got a 2-year lifespan as a Conservative leader federally. That's not a very good.
Track
handle
record.
to have. Yeah. So I, if he hangs on, and if it's in Calgary at the end of January, how many people are they going to get from across the country? Are they going to have the ability to vote if you don't make it there? Like, there are just so many things, and still, why drag it on any longer? Because every day now, the way it's going, you're just chipping away at your party one piece at a time. And by the time the cold days of January roll around, probably the only Chinook they have in Calgary is the Conservative leadership review, because I imagine it'll get pretty hot and heavy if enough people from across the country get there for it. If not, it'll be probably pretty much people who are in support of Poilievre, period. Conservatives have some real soul searching to do, in my humble opinion. Eddie?
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I think they've been dragging their heels a little bit. I think there should have been a tougher push to convince Mr. Poilievre to step down internally from the caucus, and encouraging him not to re-up and run in by-election and get back into Parliament. For them, I think it was an opportunity lost to reset their party and actually find a leader that's capable of adequately communicating what's best for Canada first and what's best for the Conservative Party second, without ego. I think there's too much ego involved here in Mr. Poilievre. And the Conservative Party lost an opportunity to push him out. I'm not sure if there were enough backbenchers or enough power hitters within the Conservative Party to gang up on him. I think they could have, and I think they chose not to. So it's a loss. It's a loss for the Conservative Party. They lost a lot of time, and you know what's not going to give them a hell of a lot of time to put somebody else in place while trying to adequately manage the opposition to the Liberal government in Parliament. So, from Poilievre up to the Conservative Party leadership, I think they blew this one for the Conservative Party and for Canadians and the government of Canada. It's just too bad they didn't push him out when they should have. I agree with you 100%, Gary. He's got no business being there anymore.
Okay, we have one more comment coming in. Big Boss says the appeal of Pierre is criminal justice. The country feels wronged for the last 10 years. Where is the justice on weak sentencing, or the recent Supreme Court decision on child porn, moral failures? That Supreme Court decision, wow, that was just
that was a humdinger.
Freaking believable that they came down that way. And hopefully Carney has said to his justice minister, get the wheels in motion. Things have to change here ASAP.
Yeah.
Hopefully. And if not, I know where you're coming from, Big Boss. I get it, because Poilievre has been tough on crime and has really emphasized that point. And I don't disagree with where he's coming from on that by any stretch. Sometimes, though, the messenger needs a little refinement, perhaps, so that the message comes through clearer than what it is. But definitely, that Supreme Court decision on child porn.
Yeah, that's a head smacker. Like what?
Yeah. Now, the Liberals are working on changing the laws regarding the bail, getting out on bail, and like the revolving door on Monday mornings, Tuesday mornings in the courtroom, like boom, boom, boom. Yeah, okay, you're charged with what? Yeah, okay, there's your bail. See you, and away they go, kind of thing. They're moving in that direction. I'm not sure if it's going to be tough enough. I'll wait and see what the final wording of the bill is as it gets going through the whole process in the House. Hopefully, they do carry through on the promise of really toughening that side of it up. But I understand where you're coming from. That's one area where Poilievre has been strong for sure.
Yeah, he's excelled there. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so with that, Eddie, I think what we shall do is say this. Up next is Eddie's Sports Pulse with a look at the 2025 Grey Cup. Now, just want to pass along to you. Ecamm Live is the leading live streaming and video production studio built for Mac. I've been using Ecamm for almost 8 years now. It's hard to believe, for recording for clients and now live streaming with Night Talk Canada. You can use it to step up your presentations for Zoom, Teams, and even Google Meet sessions. You can put it all together in Ecamm and broadcast it out from Ecamm to those. So you can try Ecamm Live free for 14 days. No credit card is required for that. Simply scan the I forgot to put the QR code up. Sorry about that. Click the affiliate link below and you can go right into Ecamm, and if you want to get that free 14 days. And I just want to again make known this is not a paid sponsorship, just a recommendation. And now, with the much anticipated look at and prediction for this year's Grey Cup, here's Eddie.
Thank you very much, Gary. Nice intro. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the time has come upon us where we will be celebrating the 112th Grey Cup here in Canada, which is being held on the 16th of November, this upcoming Sunday. And for many of you that may not know, it is actually one of Canada's biggest sporting events nationally. A lot of people watch the game on television. Stadiums are normally sold out for such a for such an event. And football is quite big here in Quebec and the prairies. And what better way to enjoy a Grey Cup weekend when we've got a team from Montreal and a team from Saskatchewan, the Saskatchewan Roughriders and Montreal Alouettes meeting this upcoming Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern. And Gary, I mean, this is the 112th Grey Cup. And just as an FYI for yourself, in 1909 was when the first Grey Cup was held, Gary. And guess who won that game? It was a team. No, it was a team from Toronto. And you know what? Yeah, it was the University of Toronto Varsity Blues beating the Toronto Parkdale Canoe Club 26-6. So there was no way Toronto could not win a championship there. So that was the first Grey Cup in 1909. I thought I'd throw that one in there for you. No way to lose there. Anyway, this year's Grey Cup is going to be held at the Princess Auto Stadium in Winnipeg. And you know what? It's leading up to this Grey Cup, Gary. I mean, you heard how excited I got with the quarterfinals being very close and plays coming down to the last play of the game, last seconds of the game. And you know what, Gary? The same thing has been happening with the Eastern and Western finals. And you know what? The games were extremely exciting to watch. And if the newcomer commissioner of the CFL, Stuart Johnston, would be watching our show today, Mr. Johnson, our games, our CFL game as is extremely exciting to watch. All right, we don't need to make the game any more exciting than it is with some of your proposed rule changes that make it look more like the NFL. So you know what, the Canadian game is doing extremely well. As I said, Gary, both games went down to the wire. In the Eastern final, the Montreal Alouettes were playing the Tiger Cats in Hamilton. And the Alouettes were trying to get to the Grey Cup after winning 2 seasons ago and missing out last year. And in Hamilton's case, they've been in first place pretty much all season. They're trying to reach the. They're trying to win. They're trying to reach the Grey Cup. The last time they were there, it was 2021. The last time they actually won, Gary, was in 1999. So there's a little bit of a Grey Cup drought going on in Hamilton. The game was extremely evenly matched, Gary, with only 1 minute and 49 seconds left on the clock. Hamilton scored a field goal and tied the game at 16-16, and a minute and a half left there or so. And Montreal took the ball within a few plays, marched down to the Hamilton 45-yard line, got a first down. They played the first two downs safe, setting up a dramatic win where they ran down the clock, and Jose Maltos kicked the winning field goal with 0 seconds left on the clock. Alouettes win 19-16, and they advance to their second Grey Cup in 3 years. So it was an excellent game to watch. A lot of back and forth, a lot of coaching strategies going on. Solid defensive play from both teams. Either team could have advanced. I'm not going to say the best team won. Both teams deserve to advance into the Grey Cup, but you know what? They're my Montreal Alouettes, and I'm looking forward to seeing them play this upcoming Sunday. Equally, in the Western final, it was Saskatchewan Roughriders hosting the BC Lions in another nail-biter. Yes, those same BC Lions that Joe in Vancouver just loves and adores. The last BC appearance in the Grey Cup was in 2011, which they won. The last Rider appearance was in 2013, where they also won the Cup. So there was a little bit of a drought going on leading up to the game this past weekend. Again, another close game. 2 minutes and 44 seconds left to go in the game. British Columbia took the lead 21-17. Right after that, Saskatchewan Roughriders marched down the field with 12 seconds left, scored the winning touchdown. So it was another nail-biter of a game, and Mr. Commissioner, our game works just beautifully without any changes. I want to emphasize that. So here we are. Our final is set between the Alouettes, seeking their 8th Grey Cup, and the Roughriders are seeking their fifth. I'm sorry, the Alouettes seeking their 9th Grey Cup, and the Riders seeking their 5th. Storylines for the game, Gary, very important. Montreal Alouettes have a young quarterback in the name of Davis Alexander. This is his second year, and this year he had his first role as starting quarterback. From the tail end of last year, where he came off the bench to work with the team and played quarterback in lieu of injured starting quarterbacks, from tail end of last year to this year, this young man has not lost a game yet. 13 straight wins for this young man. He didn't play every game this year because of injury, but every game he started, 13 straight wins, Gary, which is a record in the league. He'll be playing against the quarterback from the Saskatchewan Roughriders, veteran quarterback Trevor Harris. You might recognize that name. He guided the Alouettes to the Grey Cup victory in 2023. So this should be an interesting grudge match for Mr. Harris.
Really?
In terms of the Alouettes releasing him.
Yep.
So he kept the Riders in pretty much first place all season long, and they really haven't looked back. So once again, Gary, this Sunday, November 16, 16 p.m. Eastern Standard, the game is going to be broadcast, I think, mainly on TSN. If anybody's interested in some great football, no snooze fest, you know what the score is going to be with 3 minutes left to go in an NFL game. this can go down to the wire. It normally does. It'll be a dandy of a game. And I would encourage everyone to tune in and enjoy some Canadian football.
And tell me again how much of an NFL fan you're not.
I am not an NFL fan. Look, I don't mind a good football game. I'll look. I do watch. I do watch the Super Bowl. It's just that it seems to more and more with every passing season, it seems to be more of a production
Yeah, it
on the
is.
television screen, full of productive commercials, funny commercials, and then you'll kind of watch a couple of plays. Quarterback will take 40 seconds to call a play, and you're just basically listening to a quarterback barking orders, commercials, and graphics. I want to see football, and that's what the CFL is all about. They don't waste time. They get to it. Three down football on off. There's always a constant motion on the field, and there's always some action going on. I far prefer that over the NFL television production that they call NFL football these days. So good for the CFL. I really, really hope that these changes that the commissioner has proposed. I'm not sure whether the ownership of the nine CFL teams have accepted or adopted them, but the game is going to start looking more and more like an NFL field. And I mentioned it last week. I was a season ticket holder for 17 years. I was contemplating about buying tickets again and going back to the field. I don't. If these rules go through, taking away the beauty of the CFL game, moving the goalposts back, the 1 point missed field goal opportunity taken away, shortening the field. It's no longer going to be a 110-yard field. It's just going to have an NFL feel to me. And you know what? I think that's just going to be the demise of the CFL of being kind of like a feeder organization or a feeder league into the
Yeah.
NFL. You know what? The CFL is a Canadian institution, and it should remain a Canadian institution, and keep big American money out of our game here. That's just my position on it.
Yeah. Well, I don't disagree with you, Eddie. And I know that there was one day here a while ago I stumbled upon a comment about the changes that were, like they were against it. And I started clicking down through it. Anyway, there was a Facebook page that has been organized where these people are totally against any of the changes that are being proposed. Leave the
There are
CFL
three or
alone.
four. There are three or four
Yeah.
Facebook groups that Facebook pages that are just promoting the fact that we should keep our Canadian game a Canadian game. And it's great to see that the Canadian population or Canadian sports fans are behind supporting keeping the rules as they are and keeping the field as they are and ensuring that it remains a Canadian product.
Yeah. Well, the thing of it is, if you don't listen to the fans who are there supporting, then it won't take very long after the changes go through where you don't have any fans coming out to the games.
Money
And then
talks.
yeah, exactly. It sure does. And we have a couple of quick comments coming out of this segment. Monel says, "Go Als." And Joe, look at this. Joe, let's go Alouettes.
Thank you, Joe.
Here you go. All righty. And with that, let's see now. How about next week a post-mortem on the big game?
Sure, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Alrighty. So that's a wrap on this week's episode. Thank you for joining us.
And remember to like, comment, and share on Facebook and YouTube, even if you are watching later. It really does help us to grow our stream, YouTube channel, and Facebook page. We appreciate your support. I'm Eddie Tekalik. Good night.
And you can also catch us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Facebook Reels, and X. Just search at Night Talk Canada. And that's going to be a wrap for tonight. This is, it's been quite a night actually. And thank you to everyone for the comments. We had some new people in tonight commenting, Eddie. It's always good to see. And so we really do appreciate that. And off we go with this. I'll leave you with this one thought. And it's not what you think, Eddie. Honest, unfiltered Canadian the conversation we should be having. And we really do try to have it each and every week. I'm Gary MacDonald. Night Talk Canada returns in 7 days. Good night.